Welcome to Bytes and Bolts, the podcast where we look at improving ourselves, our work, and the web industry as a whole. This week, we're going to be looking at podcasts. Ironically, other podcasts. Ones that are good, ones that are going to help you be more creative, ones to inform you and to educate you. So get ready, it's going to be a little bit of a whirlwind, but I think it's going to be a good one. One of my favorite things to do is to learn. It's part of who I am. And if you've read any of my other articles, then you probably already knew that. One of the ways I like to expand my brain on a daily basis is through quality podcasts. Now, some people have a hard time listening to spoken word, and I totally respect that and understand how it can be distracting, especially at work. And maybe you prefer not to listen to podcasts at all, or you have a hard time with this type of media. However, I want to encourage you to somehow find a way to incorporate these new and different perspectives into your day. Maybe that's during a commute, or over a lunch break with peers, or while you exercise, or some other inventive mean I haven't thought of. But please explore how to incorporate these incredibly helpful resources into your day so that they can help broaden your perspective. Now, the first list of these is directly related to the web industry or some type of creative podcast. These podcasts are extremely helpful. Now, whether that's user experience that we're talking about, or responsive design, development, or creativity, they all bring a unique perspective that's helpful to your ears. The first one is the Shop Talk Show. If you like CSS tricks, then you'll love this podcast. It's hosted by Chris Coyier and Dave Rupert. These guys are hilarious. And the Shop Talk Show is all about the web industry and not automotive shop talk. Sorry. CodePen Radio is also another one. Chris Coyier brings various guests and employees at CodePen Online to talk about what's going on at CodePen. And he often says that these kind of serve as this internal meetings for them, and we're lucky to kind of have this insight, an inside look into how CodePen operates. Developer Tea. This podcast has topics that reach beyond just the developer. Now, it's hosted by Jonathan Kurtrell, and he's at JCUTRELL on Twitter, J. Kurtrell. This podcast has informative and useful information about your career, and it's encouraging where Jon does a great job explaining and communicating the various topics of discussion and invites interesting guests on that can help level up your career. The Creative Pep Talk. Now, this one is a new one for me. I just discovered it in the past few months. Host Andy J. Miller, not Andy J. Williams, is a graphic illustrator who loves to interview designers in the industry. Listening to this podcast will help foster your creative spark into a full-fledged inferno. Andy and his guests are passionate about great and unique design. The Graphic Sound. Now, host Brandon Reich is actually friends with the previous podcast of the Creative Pep Talk, Andy J. Miller. Now, Brandon Reich is interviewing guests in the design industry, and if you love music, you're going to love his extremely polished podcasting style. He incorporates fabulous and inspiring music into his in-depth interviews with other talented designers. Control Click. If you love Expression Engine or Craft, you might already be familiar with this one. Hosts Leah Alcantara and Emily Lewis, sorry if I butcher your name, ladies, they host a great podcast with guests that often drop some serious knowledge on its listeners. The podcast will often make you think further about what you do and how you do it, and how you can do it better. A responsive web design podcast. Now, hosts Ethan Marcotte and Karen McGrain, who we're probably all familiar with, host this podcast where they invite guests to talk about their responsive web design process. These projects are typically higher profile projects, but they include great lessons and suggestions to inform your responsive web design process. Now, I've got another list here. I just call them other interesting podcasts because these help to expand my brain too. They're not directly related to the web industry or creative industry. However, they are often enlightening and extremely helpful resource for getting me out of my designer developer box. They serve to help me think in new ways and make me a better web creator. Tested. This is the official podcast of Tested.com, and it covers a variety of topics from virtual reality, politics in the tech industry, technical advancements, making, if you're a maker, and so much more. Listening to this podcast will keep you up to speed on what's going on in the tech and maker worlds. Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. Now, this is kind of related to Tested. They're actually kind of a sister podcast, if you want to call them that. You often see some of the same guests back and forth. But Mythbusters star Adam Savage hosts a podcast as part of the crew from thetested.com. They discuss movies, making, props, tech, current events, and so much more. And they even have guests appear from time to time. 3 guys, 3 questions. It's exactly as it sounds, only with tons of laughing. 3 guys plus 1 question each equals 9 hilarious answers. If you like to laugh, you should definitely check this one out. It's a good chuckle, which sometimes helps you get through that bad day mentality. We got this. It's always a great debate with this one. On We Got This, they come up with a topic to debate, ranging from who is the better superhero to which Girl Scout cookie is best. These guys know how to solidify the relative truth. And lastly on the list, America's Test Kitchen Radio. Even if you don't like cooking, the process is so intricate and interesting. If you're a maker and haven't tried cooking, then give this podcast a try. If you hate cooking, give this podcast a try. It might inspire you to pick up the food craft. In conclusion, I just want to say that this is not by any means an exhaustive list, but these are some of my go-to audio bites that I take in on a weekly basis. I hope you find some items in this list that'll inspire you, and some new ones too. Thanks again for listening to this week's show. I had a blast putting together this list, and I hope that you guys found something that was helpful, something new, something insightful. If there's any that I'm missing, something that, wow, I totally can't believe I didn't mention that one, feel free to reach out on me and let me know. You can get at me at Twitter, at Jon Daiello, or on my website at jondaiello.com. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next time.